Welcome to the Here We Grow podcast, the podcast dedicated to encouraging and nourishing our lives. And it also gives me a reason to hang out with my beautiful bride. Welcome tonight, Chelsea.
Hey, love.
So excited to hang out with my bride. It's so fun having you on the show. And we are excited today because we just got back from a little mini vacation.
Woohoo!
Yeah, it was so fun. My bride surprised the whole family and took us to Vegas to visit some friends. And we had a good time while we were out there. What was your favorite part, Chelsea?
Oh, man. Well, it's always good to get away, just to relax a little bit. But it was awesome because we had some friends suggest going to the one and only Hell's Kitchen by Gordon Ramsay. So that was my favorite part.
Yes.
The food was amazing.
Oh my gosh. And I was so excited to do this with Chelsea. And it was almost like this plate of honor is what happened, is that she honored me by surprising me to go have some vacation time and get away. And then I had the honor to surprise her and go to Hell's Kitchen, and we had some of the most amazing food I've ever tasted in my entire life. It was incredible. I probably spent more money on any food I've ever spent on this, but it was totally worth it.
It was worth it.
So good. What was your favorite dish? We tried 6 different things, right?
Right. We basically both got like a 3-course meal, so it's hard to choose. I mean, the seared scallops, of course, were amazing, but the beef Wellington, that's a famous dish. That was amazing. I don't know. It was so good. I don't know if I've ever had cheesecake like that with peanut butter chocolate cheesecake. It was amazing.
And the mac and cheese, I mean, seriously, can you even call that mac and cheese?
I know.
It was the most phenomenal thing I've ever put in my mouth.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
It was glorious.
Other than the other things I put in my mouth that hour.
My favorite part was when the server came up and she said, "You guys, is this your first time here? You look really excited." I'm like, yep, guilty as charged.
For sure. But it was so much fun, and we had a good time. And I love the downtime. I mean, it's good to hang out with friends and just have some downtime to hang out and talk and think and get away. So thank you so much for putting that on and so that we could have some vacation time and time away. It was amazing. And then we got to take our boys right before we left town to the Avengers exhibit. Woo-hoo. And that was super cool to have Noah, our 6-year-old, just pretty much light up being in that place. What do you think he got the most excited about?
He was really looking forward to the Hulkbuster. The Hulkbuster suit. He was like almost not entertained by anything else and just kept wanting to get there. And then when we got there, he was amazed and looking at all of that, and just
walked right past the other 6 Iron Man suits,
totally
just straight to that one. Yep. As soon as he saw it around the corner, I remember getting a picture of him just pointing at that. There it is. It was so exciting, such a cool thing.
Yeah,
I think he was super stoked to at the end get his little ID card that said he is now an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. You know, so he's had that in his pocket all day, and every time he'd get out of the car, he took it out of his wallet just in case someone needed to know that he was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I caught him on the way home, on the drive home, just staring at it as we're driving home. I don't know how long he was staring at it. But
He's like, I'm going to be trained by SpiderMan. So much fun. Well, it's so good to get together as a family and do those things. And one of the things that worked out really well is that the reason we got to go on vacation is because we got a lot going on. Some pretty crazy stuff happening, and God's doing some crazy things. And so what kind of things do we have going on, my beautiful bride?
I just have to say, it's really hard to block out in our calendar a couple of days where it's not meetings here, there, and everywhere, especially without you asking a bunch of questions, and you ended up scheduling things that you had to rearrange. And you mean it when it says "do not book"? You're actually serious? Yes, I'm actually serious. So that was like a hard part because we are so busy, but you know, you are wired to where you need to escape sometimes. You function better when you have those ebbs and flows, and so I knew that was important to prioritize.
Thank you
and
for that.
So it was fun, you know, to be able to pack without you even worrying about it.
I know, it was so crazy to get home from church right after Sunday. And usually I would take a nap immediately after church. But I get home from church and I'm finishing up some receipts and some admin stuff. And you're like, hey, you've got an outfit upstairs. Go ahead and go get changed and then get in the car. And I'm like, what? What's going on? What's happening? And then I get upstairs and I look at the outfit and it's shorts, a t-shirt, some flip-flops, my sunglasses, and a hat. And I'm thinking, are we going to the beach? Like, what's going on? And then only to find about 20 minutes down the freeway, you're like, do you want to know where you're going? And yeah, we're going to Vegas. We're taking a couple days away. I'm like, no way, like so crazy. So I'm so grateful. So thank you so much. I feel so refreshed. Just got back this afternoon, right?
Yeah.
So we got home and then went straight to doing ministry again and back out to the men's group. And
feels so good.
It does. And the men's group was awesome tonight. We talked about honor, and it was amazing to just get together with those men and talk about honor and what honor looks like from every angle. And yeah, it was really cool. But one of the reasons that we're so busy is because we just caught news, and we get to release to our listeners and to everyone else that we have been honored by our mother church, Centerpoint Church, that we will be starting as our own church, that our campus is graduating, that we have created enough of a community and success to be able to launch as our own church. So that has all its own implications and things to go with it. And oh man, the journey to getting to there was so crazy as well. Just to see what God is doing and can do in and through all of it. But as my bride and as a co-pastoring with me as a campus pastor, what in this journey so far, like there's so much we can talk about, but what do you think there is something that you'd want to share with the people of this journey and what it's been like for you?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I feel like every step has been just another layer of humility.
So true.
It has been incredibly humbling to see how God can use someone like me, someone like us.
Right.
It is incredibly humbling because we're like every step of the way we keep thinking like they're going to figure out we're not this cool. Like why are they,
sure.
It's just, but it's such an honor too. Like that is the other half of it, is that it is such an honor to be a part of people's lives, to gain people's trust, to be able to be a part of the most victorious parts of their lives and also the most devastating parts, to be able to be there and to support families. And it is such an honor. And so, so in this journey, it has just been, one day at a time, and just saying yes to Jesus. That's really all we've been doing, is just saying yes to Jesus. That's and going along for the ride. And sometimes, you get turned up in the wave. But if you're connected to that surfboard, you'll make it back up to the surface. And, and so it's been fun, but I love what you were saying, about resting in the chaos. And that has really been like kind of what has been the last 3 or 4 months leading up to this this moment right now. Can you talk about that a little bit? Yeah,
absolutely. The the chaos of it all, like it really started back in November, when God had really put on our hearts that there was something in us that needed to be birthed. And at the time, it was just like, I don't know what this is. And I know our lead pastors, as they were asking, put together one page sheet of what God's put in you. And when we did that, it was just like, oh my gosh, like this thing is something real and something different. And it was then trying to figure out like, what are the next steps and how is this going to become? And for seven months, not knowing like what's next and just sitting in that chaotic moment. It's kind of like when you're trying to predict what's going to happen next in your life and how God's going to come through and what's going to make sense in it all. And you end up drawing out every scenario possible you can think up in your mind. And then God does something completely different anyways. And it's like, God, it's just like God's word says, don't spend any time worrying. I took care of the flowers of the field and the birds of the air. Like I'll take care of you. And it's that same process of, God was showing me during that time when he was telling us, that you're going to launch and this is going to happen. I remember sitting through a prophetic exercise. And in that prophetic exercise, the gentleman that was speaking, he shared, and it was actually our music director at Centerpoint Marietta, and he was sharing. He said, ask God what he wants from you. And I'm sitting there in this crowd of people and asking God, like, God, what do you want from me? And I felt like he said, I want your security. And in being led through this exercise, the next part was saying, okay, now ask God what that looks like. And in that next moment, I'm asking God, what does that look like to give you my security? And he shows me a vision of standing in the ocean, and the water is up to my chest, and I'm feeling each wave hitting me, and I'm digging my feet into the sand, trying to hold my ground.
So real.
And And I felt like God said, I want you to let go of your footing and come out into the deep with me. And I remember just going, oh man, like, what does that mean? And then being led through the exercise, the next part was, okay, now ask God what will happen if you do this. And I remember sitting there and going, okay, God, like, if I give you my security, what's going to happen? And then in that moment, I had the most vivid vision I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
And I've had tons of visions and heard from God in so many different ways, but this was the most vivid thing I'd ever seen. As I'm walking up these stairs, these wooden stairs, and the handrail is wooden. I can feel every grain in the wood. I can see the red and brown colorings in the wood, and I can feel it. And as I'm walking onto this platform that's massive, I look out and it's an arena full of people. And I remember in that moment opening my eyes and going, no, God, I can't do that. That's not possible. And thinking, and this is months ago, before we even knew this was even a possibility of happening, of
right.
launching, and then to be able to receive God's promises of going, you have to give up your security to be able to do that. And to launch is definitely giving up security. You know,
sure.
you don't have the mother church that takes care of finances, that takes care of all the administration stuff, and so this next season is all faith, just walking on the water with Jesus and going out into the deep. But we are both, as a couple, excited about what God can possibly do through all of this.
Yeah, I'm just so proud. I'm so proud of our team. I'm proud of our community.
Yes.
It's a family, and it has grown to be something so healthy, you know, just in community, in fellowship, and just the nurturing of people, but also on the on the church side of things, it is in a very good place, and from where it came from, totally. It's been so exciting to watch how God has just thread his glory into every week, week after week, and it's just been so exciting. And so, I think about that vision that you were given, and just almost like floating on our back in the ocean, still feeling the waves. You still can hear the sound of the ocean, but doing a back float in the ocean has a completely different feel. I remember when I went to the Dominican Republic, and we would do ministry, all day long, go to different sites and hug on kids. And it was so hot, and so we were sweaty, and there's dust and dirt everywhere, so you're covered in sweat and dirt, and so we would get back to our hotel, and we were actually really fortunate. There were missionaries all over the country, and we got placed in a resort, so don't tell anybody, but it was like probably the best kind of missions trip you could possibly go on. So we would get back, and it was so much fun because we would run up to our room, change into our swimsuit, and we would run out and run off the dock and jump into the ocean. And it was almost like a daily baptism from all of the ministry that we did that day, all of the spirits, all of the physical stuff that we would encounter, and we would just let the ocean wash it away. And I remember every time being out there and just doing a back float and not being worried about like being drifted off into into the abyss or anything. I would just sit there and float with God and just think about what he did that day. And that is very similar to how this most recent season felt for us, is that, nothing is really in our control. And so I'm just going to float and just enjoy it and let God do it. I don't have all the answers. I can conjure up all these ideas, but really it's a wasted capacity, of thinking about how he could do it. And so it's been exciting to see what he's been doing. But I feel like that back float moment is expired. And now the wave is coming, and we're like,
time to go.
Moving our arms as fast as we possibly can to make sure we don't miss it,
Exactly. And that reminds me of another vision that God gave me during our men's prayer time. And our men meet every week on Thursday mornings at 6 a.m. To pray in French Valley. And this one week during prayer, and God gave me a vision also of, because I was very overwhelmed at what possibly could be next and all these things. And in this vision, I'm walking up to this mountain. And as I get closer to the mountain, it turns into a mirror. And the mirror, God tells me that my mountain is only a reflection of me, and I think for everyone, it's saying that God built this mountain for you, for your development, for who you're to become. And I felt like right immediately after that vision, I saw when Jesus is in the boat with his disciples, and they're in the middle of a storm, and Jesus is sleeping in the boat. And I felt like God said during that moment, I want you to rest in the storm because there's going to be a whole lot of work to do when you get to the other side of the sea. And like you said, I think we're getting to that other side of the sea, is that we're finally getting to this place. It's like, okay, now it's time to work. Now it's time to do things. Now it's time to take territory and take ground for the kingdom. Yeah. And that's pretty exciting. Yeah. I'm super stoked about that.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a sense of pride and ownership too that we've been hearing from different people and
members of the church.
So different people who have been a part of the church, but launching, and I think having the Mother Church blessing us the way that they are amazing. With so much favor and so much honor. They truly are gifting us with just so much,
So true.
And so it is so awesome. And so even with that though, to be able to have the support of the people, and it has been really exciting to watch the ownership that has taken place and watch their eyes light up, and they've been dreaming and sending us ideas and things that God is stirring in their spirit. And that part is so cool to see what God is doing in their hearts, because God's been talking to us about this for a long time. And so to see that God is stirring the hearts of the people that we are in ministry with is so awesome, because ministry can be lonely sometimes. And especially in this season of transition, to know that we're not alone is awesome. It's so fun to be able to run with others who are excited about what Jesus is doing.
Yeah. And just like anything, everyone goes through their own process, right? Of what change feels like. And one particular one I'm reminded of is our producer, Dante, who, when we call and he's sitting there and he's like, what? With this change and everything. And I remember going through that same process of going, is this going to work? This is scary. This is a step of faith that can't be called anything else, because it's not logical, and yet it's a complete step of faith, and it's in those moments we can't just preach about faith and then not live it. It's a moment where you have an opportunity to live out what God's put in you, and it'd be easier just to keep doing what you're doing, but to step out in faith and step out on God's word go, and to be able to do it, it's such a humbling place, because you really are completely dependent on God, because the logic is just not there. And I would want to say to our listeners too that even what we're going through as a church to step out in faith, I believe that every individual within our church and within every church is asked to do the same. You're asked to do things that don't make sense. You're asked to do things that can only be done by God, and that's when it's faith. That's when God's going to come through. If you were to try to count the numbers and try to make sense of it all, and you can't. But yet God is still saying go, and that's when God's going to show up. He's going to show off. He's going to do amazing things, and that's where you're putting your faith in Him, not in yourself, in your own abilities. And tell me if you agree. Is that not where we're at right now?
Oh my gosh,
completely past our own abilities.
Absolutely, and that's how I like it. I mean, as scary as it is, when all the numbers match up, God doesn't have any room to get the glory, and so there has to be room for Him to shine, and that is the way I like it. When things are too comfortable, I kind of start getting a little bit leery, of like, okay, what am I compromising in, or what isn't being done that I'm being prompted to do, right? And so I like that tension, I guess, if you will, but it is scary at the same time. It totally is scary, and you have to lean on His faithfulness. And I think the best way that I know you and I manage that tension of this is scary is His track record, right? And how many times have we been in seasons just like this where it is scary, and yet we know God has pulled through and done it every single time in amazing ways that we never could have thought up, right? Exactly. And so yes, it's scary, but at the same time, it's so exciting, and so it's fun. It's so fun.
Right. And isn't that the only way to live with the Lord? It's like when you're living mediocre and you're living in a life where you don't have to stretch yourself, you don't have to stretch your faith. Does God have any room in it? And that's an honest question that we should all ask ourselves. If you're living in a place where you don't have to stretch, is God in it? because he's always asking us to stretch. He's always asking us, because our relationship with him is dependent on our faith.
Right.
And if you don't require faith, then where's God?
Right.
And it's we were in our men's group today when we were reading the verse that says that that we honor God with our lips and with our mouths, but we don't render him with our hearts. And that same thought process of, like, it's easy to sing songs about take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, right? And yet when you have the opportunity to go into a place that you don't belong, that you don't qualify for, that you don't have the prerequisites to walk in that place, yet, and that's where it is, going, help me to trust you, God. Help me to hear you. And to just go out and let go of your footing. And how much of us we get to a comfortability of depth, like, it's okay, I can withstand the waves here, I can withstand the pressure here, so I'm going to stay right here. And to go out into the deep and let go of that footing altogether. I don't know about you, like, the ocean kind of scares me sometimes, like when you go out into those depths, like, you don't know what's lurking underneath you.
Totally.
Like, you're just floating around, and there it for God to give that vision, it was even more so a place of trust. Like, going, okay, like, I'm putting myself in a place of complete vulnerability where I don't know what's coming. I don't know what's around me. I don't know what's underneath. I don't know if I'm going to drown. I don't know any of those things, right? It's as Peter's sitting on the boat and he says, if it's you, Lord, tell me to come. And Jesus says, come. Like, the rest of us, we all have a decision. Are we going to get out of the boat?
Right.
Are we going to step out? And what I loved about that scripture, I was reading it the other day and preached about it last Sunday, was that even though Peter, he made the decision to get out of the boat and he's walking on the water, and then he started to question himself and started to doubt himself and started to fail, started to sink. And Jesus immediately takes him and brings him up and says, oh, why do you lack faith? Why don't you just believe? And then puts him on the boat. But then right after that, it says that they all praised him, for they knew he was God. And I think about, like, our steps of faith. Even in our steps of faith, if we fail, God will still get the glory, and it'll bring glory to him as he shows off and shows up, even if he has to rescue us in our step of faith because we failed to have faith in the middle of it. He'll still show off enough to where people will give him glory and give him praise. And so that was just such an encouragement to me in this season of going, what am I doing? What are we doing in this? Like, is this going to work? And yet God he's like, no, don't doubt. And second of all, even if you fail, I've got you. And it's going to glorify me.
I love the part of that story where the audaciousness of Peter getting out of the boat almost expedited their journey, right? They're in the storm, the waves and the wind. They're in the middle of all of this, right? And, Peter is audacious enough to step out into that storm, right in the middle of all of that chaos, right? But then after he does that and they're back in the boat, they're on the other side, right then.
Jesus calms the storm.
And so I often am challenged by his audaciousness of what could be expedited, right? And sometimes we feel like we're right in the middle of a storm and we feel helpless even in the storm, right? But maybe God is prompting us to take that step of faith, to say yes to Jesus like we've been doing, you know? And not all the time are we prompting a yes, right? It's not always a prompt yes. But when we are audacious and we step out, I truly believe it allows God to expedite our journey to get us to where he intended us to get, but it's faith required, right?
Amen. And, at the Here We Grow podcast, we always want to leave people with a challenge, right? And make sure that they get a challenge for the week and for the day. And for this one, just as we are having to step out in faith with our church and launching our church and not knowing how to do it and just trusting God in the middle of it, I want to challenge each and every listener that where you're at with your life right now, if God's asking you to stretch in any way, maybe it's to tithe, you've never tithed before, and you're like, but God's word says that if you'll give me these things, then I'll bless you. I'll press down, shaking together, and running over. If you're going to act on one of God's promises, to trust him in your marriage, to trust him with your kids, to trust him to take that leap of faith in a new job or a new business. I want to challenge each and every one of you to take that leap. Take the leap of faith and even email us, send us an email at feedback@herewegrowpodcast.com and let us know, what did God do when you took that leap of faith?
Come on.
You know, like I don't, we don't need to just be hearers of the word, but doers also, right?
Yeah.
And I would love to hear about what other people are doing,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and where we're all taking steps of faith. And I pray too that you hear in Chelsea and I's voice that there is a bit of fear, right? Just like Peter,
Yeah.
as he's getting ready to walk out on the water, and everyone's saying, it's a ghost, don't do this, you know? There's a little bit of fear when you have to walk out your faith, you know? And you're doing something that's completely illogical. And so I want to challenge everyone to take a leap of faith this week.
Yeah,
take
so
a leap
good.
of faith, you know, give where you didn't think you could. Bless someone where you didn't want to. If that one person at work is always annoying and is bugging you all the time, and God's been putting it on your heart to bless them, take them to lunch, take them to coffee, and bless them and love on them and tell them how valuable they are. You know, just take a leap of faith and see what God might do.
So good.
So good. Well, we're so excited about this next season. Chelsea, I thank you. I want to thank you publicly in front of everyone for just being by my side and being my co-partner in crime in all of this of being able to take the steps of faith together. One of the things that's so important to Chelsea and I is, couples in ministry. And we get told all the time that our marriage is envied, and it's not our goal for our marriage to be envied. But what I would say is that the reason it is because we always get on the same page. We're always seeking the Lord together. It's not always perfect. We have our arguments and our discussions. We're both strong-willed people, but at the same time, like, we won't give up on each other. And I just want to thank you publicly for that, and for just being an amazing woman, an amazing bride, and also an amazing pastor. You're incredible, and I'm so excited to build this church with you and to see what God has for us. And I know that it's going to take the strength of both of us and many people, all the people in our church, and everyone that God's called to be a part of what we're doing. And I pray for more. I pray for more people to come. I pray for more people to be blessed, to be grown, to be developed and deployed into their destiny. So I'm super excited about that. And I love you, honey.
I love you too.
So awesome.
Romantic.
Oh, yes. Well, and thank you all for listening and for being a part of our podcast today. Thanks for celebrating with us as we get to do all that God's called and created us to do. And please take your own leap of faith. And here at the Here We Grow podcast, we just appreciate you. Please like us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and also subscribe and share with your friends and family. We love you, and here we grow.